let's talk with the Dallas Cowboys owner and GM, Jerry Jones. Good morning, sir.
Hey, good to be on with you guys. It's a stepped-up day. Got a little different pace to our step. Those fights start at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
And
going to be a lot of good fights out there today.
And I did want to ask you, I know obviously y'all are getting ready for the Monday night game. Will you be in attendance for the Mike Tyson, Jake Paul extravaganza?
Absolutely, right at ringside. I will be.
Okay.
I'm excited about it. And those fights actually start at 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, so after our show.
By the way, Netflix specifically didn't want a curtain, so we don't do a curtain out there.
Well played, sir.
That's the kind of story we really are excited about for fighting, really, and the interest that's being exhibited, and the fact that Netflix is doing such a coverage of it, and the fact that we're going to have as many as 70,000 out there. It's real happening. We're real proud of it.
You are probably supposed to stay neutral, but I'm curious if you have a rooting interest in the main event. The public sentiment seems to be pretty strongly behind Mike Tyson. What are you thinking about this fight?
Well, I have we all have a big part of our lives living around the legend and the actual fighter, Mike Tyson. But I know him and have known him for years, and he's a really a top person, and it's amazing what happens to him when he gets in the ring. Now he might become something else when he gets in that ring. But boys, he's a nice guy out of the ring, and he's been a real credit for fighting.
When these fights happen, Jerry, whenever you have these kinds of events, how much different is the crowd from a football game to what you see whenever you have these kinds of events go on?
Well, the proximity to the action, and you normally mentally picture right around that ring and within feet of the fighters himself, creates an intimate involvement of the fans there. But I would say that the anticipation, the just two people out there, nothing to hide. It's all you. Whatever happens, you did it or they did it. So I think all of that adds to it. But one of the reasons I really am a big fight fan is it has such a following in Mexico, and it has such a following by our Hispanic fans. And when we do fights, I get letters just thanking the Cowboys for being involved in the enthusiasm promotion of the fights. But I think it's a great sport, and this is a great way to call attention to it, a modern-day way of bringing it forward. But fighting was such a big part of my father's generation and his generation back in World War II, and all of it has such ground roots in America that it just really is an interesting and good night. I'm so glad the stadium's getting to be involved.
Do you think that because they put on a show, that boxing has always been big at putting on a show. Do you ever take anything from them, from the boxing world, to say, I think we can add that element to the NFL?
Well, I had a great coach. I was interviewing him for my master's thesis. And I was interviewing him, and he was one of the greatest coaches. I'm going to have deference and not mention his name. But he started off, and he said, you take the fake out of me, there's not much left. Think about that a minute. And this was a great coach. I mean, maybe the greatest of all time. And so it's really not that. It's just that a whole bunch of competing is getting your mind right. A whole bunch of competing is as you see yourself as against an opponent, whether it be team or individual. A whole bunch of stuff is in the mind. And that I appreciate that, because I can imagine what fighters have to do to get themselves ready to step out there and get hit.
Now, one of the things we love about talking with you, Jerry, is not just being able to talk boxing and Cowboys, but general NFL stuff. And I know this has kind of been building for a while. Roger Goodell said he would like to see an expansion to 18 games within the next 5 years. I would love to get your thoughts about whether or not that's feasible and anything else you have on the topic.
Well, first of all, I'm a 18-game proponent. I think that it's serves the game in a great way. It's a de-emphasis off the game part of preseason. Going with that would cut those 2 games off of preseason. So you just have 2 games in preseason, and then the rest of it would be full season games. With the nature of the game, the interest in the game, nothing wrong with teams early playing themselves into top form and those games counting. And so I'm for it. It creates a really good expansion of the visibility of our game. In other words, there'll be more people that eyeball football. I'm all for that. I think this is one of the big reasons that we have the interest in NFL today is it's been so accessible, free television, if you will, and it's been the most accessible. And I think that alone has created interest in the game.
In this scenario, would you anticipate 2 regular season buys per team?
Well, I don't know that detail, and I don't know how that would end up and resolve, but that's getting in the weeds a little bit on it. But it's something that is logical to think, but let's just see how that might work.
Yeah, Kevin loves getting in the weeds on those details.
I do.
Sure. He's always been that kind of
guy. Hey, and Kevin, to your defense, I love the weeds too. I do. I love the detail, and first of all, when it's nuanced, and that's a big deal. You're talking about another bye, another break in the middle to heal up a little bit and get the teams get their feet up under them and get to go again. So that's a big issue, and I'm all for it. But I love the details. The thing that I love football so much that I've always thought that those nuances, not just the pass, not just the block, but the nuances of what's behind that, anytime that we can project that out to our fans, everybody's a winner. To remind you, we're the first team to ever have a camera in the draft room. And, of course, the draft has turned out to be one of the most viewed events that we have in the NFL. But it was so thought that, man, that's so sanctimonious in there, and the discussions can get so sensitive and so personal. That's just not going to work. Well, it does work, and it works fabulous. And those details are what creates more interest in the game.
Plus, if you add another bye, that's an extra week on the TV schedule the next time those contracts come up. You know what I'm saying?
I do. Hey, I just thought of a story. I'm not trying to change the subject at all, but I just thought of one that's very appropriate with this fight that we got here today and tonight with it. But when Stephen was about 16, I was all figuring out ways to try to, as a young, for a dad, to make him something that I was not. If you see, every father I've ever met lives what he wanted to be through his son or through that competition. So I was backing a fighter, and his name was Otis Bates. And he was ambidextrous, but he was a hell of a cruiserweight fighter. I mean, a legitimate cruiserweight, big-time fighter. So my friends that I had trained him, and I was really the sponsor of him, or one of the sponsors of him. And this was 4 or 5 years before I bought the Cowboys. Well, I said, Stephen, it'd toughen Stephen up a little bit, and it'd be good for him. He's 16. So I arranged a deal where Stephen would spar with him at 16. And this is a Mike Tyson kind of attitude guy. Uh-oh. Well, Stephen had his headgear on and ready to go. And I said, now, boys, whatever you do, don't you let that guy get loose on him and hurt him. I said, but it'll be good. Well, Stephen walks out there, and the first things he does, he jabs him right on the nose, and they had their headgears on and everything. that guy completely goes crazy. And he starts hitting Steven, and he's hitting him in the shoulders, face, everything. The book turned his headgear completely around on his head where Steven was looking out the hole. It got hit that hard. Can you picture that? Man, we were running up there. Everybody was trying to get in the ring that stopped him. And he just punched him wrong. And of course, the instincts took over, and the fighter got after it and did his deal. Well, I had to in blood, and Steven still got me to this day and always says, I'll tell. Of course, I'm telling right here and have told, but I said, you got to do one thing. Don't you ever tell your mother. Don't you ever tell your mother that I put you up in that ring with that guy. And, of course, it got out, and I got killed.
Oh, man, you know what? We have Steven on Monday, so we can ask him a little bit of his side of that conversation.
Please do. Please do. Oh, yeah, hit him with it. He's good at it. He's got another perspective on it. By the way, you didn't see old Daddy-O getting his ass up in that ring, but I put old Steven up there.
Got to let him get his experience.
That's typical.
I'm glad, Jerry, that you brought that up too, though, because this is a personal question. Every year, I think I ask Jerry one personal question, and as of last night, I am certain that I lost my wedding ring. Do you have any advice for me? Should I tell my wife, for one? Also, how do I replace this?
Well, I'd go to where you were and get it if you can. Is that awkward?
Go like where I bought it before or where it was last, because
where you left it last night.
Oh yeah,
where you left it.
No!
That's a very long story. I can never get it back. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna find a new one.
Man, these areas of conversation in life normally lead to awkward spots. Don't bring this stuff up.
Gotcha. All right. Well, I'll get back to this then. The Cowboys tried wide receiver by committee, and we saw a little bit of the running back by committee. What have the Cowboys learned from those experience of doing positions by committee so far?
Well, first of all, let's be real clear. I don't know of anybody that just lines up a team with only one or two receivers. By the very nature of it, there's usually 6 on the roster, and according to what you do with your tight end count. And then with running back, it's almost, when you look at a roster and where you're going to put your defense, offense, any special team whiz you got. But you normally are dealing with 3 running backs on a roster. And when they do, they say, this guy will probably do 15 carries. This guy will probably do X carries. I don't know what you want to call that. Committee? What do you want to call it? Some guys seem to do better in close when you're in short yardage. Some guys hit those creases better to the outside. Some guys are inside runner better. And so when you say what's different about a committee, it's always been committee. We had backups when they had the great Emmitt Smith. There was another one. Now, to define that he's your most effective running back right now, yeah, you can do that, just like you can. Lamb is our most effective receiver. I'm not taking issue. I'm just saying these positions, by the very nature, you have a coach for the entire group, so that if all you had was one player out there, you wouldn't need a coach for that one player. And so my point to you is it's always been committee. Now, I understand the implication of what's by committee where you're really trying to split it. But, the nature of a ball game and getting nicked in a ball game. What if you go out there and have a head concussed or those type of things, then, boy, you got to have somebody ready to go. Depth is the thing. And so to be definitive, what he's really saying is Rico is really showing up, and he's doing what we'd always hoped he would do. There wasn't anybody that didn't think Rico was a one heck of a ball carrier, but he's had trouble staying healthy, and really that's been his nemesis. And so that he's healthy, and he's staying healthy. That's a good thing because he's always been one of our top. He runs violently is the word I often hear people describe him. He runs violently.
Trey Lance has said that he wants to continue to grow as a Cowboy this season. I'm curious, what does that look like to you? Like, obviously playing better, but how can you tell if Trey Lance is growing as a player throughout the season, especially if he's not the primary starter?
You'll never be able to tell until you see how he does it in competition, in real games. You can do a lot of work. By the way, mentally, he's one of the top people our coaches have ever been around mentally. And he's got the temperament for that position. He's really outstanding mentally. Work ethic, it's right on par with any of the great ones you've ever seen. He's got work ethic. Now, you can get in trouble comparing, but I'm talking work ethic. And the stick-to-itiveness, for that, what that means, well, obviously, he's been staying hard and staying focused to try to improve. He probably has more upside because he hasn't played the games in college or otherwise, but he's got a lot of we keep hearing that. It's definitely strong. He's got a very strong arm. He's got a real upside with his size and speed. And so he's legitimate. That's why he was drafted, I think, with the 6th pick or the 5th pick in the whole draft. And so and he works hard. So all of those things you can have success with that, but you got to have the opportunity. I've often said that you may never have seen Dak Prescott, and I'm not taking anything away from Dak Prescott. You may never have seen him had Romo not gotten hurt. And then he goes on the field out there, and during the season, in several games, becomes a factor that caused people to evaluate, look harder, emboldened him. Now, he'd had a lot more playtime in college. But still, this is how it happens. And so if you get in there, get playtime, do some things right, get your own confidence up, you can take off. But he's talented.
Jerry, changing the topic a little bit, today starts playoff football for high school. And Jason Witten has become one of the best high school coaches in the state of Texas. Do you see him possibly becoming a head coach in the NFL? I know he's just doing high school right now, and his kids are in high school. Do you see him as a great, knowledgeable guy that could take what he's doing in high school and take it to the highest level of coaching?
Yes. Without hesitation, yes. He has something you can't draw up. Reminds me of a lot of our other tight end who's head coach up there at Detroit right now. Mm-hmm. And he's his own words when he talked his parting ways with the team. Boys, it's in the dirt. It's down in the dirt. That's where it is. But Jason is very sophisticated when it comes to understanding football and all the nuances. But more important than anything, he really does understand the physical and the mentality of being physical, that part of it. So without a question, he can become above high school. He can become a coach. He has extraordinary work ethic. And he is absolutely calls on his teammates, or would call on his players as a coach. So yeah, he can be a top coach.
And last thing I got for you, I just want to make sure that we can show you we do our research here. Was your master's thesis entitled "The Role of Oral Communication in Modern Day Football"? Does that sound correct?
That was it.
There you go.
That was it.
All right.
And my coach, who was a really highly respected coach, Frank Broyles of Arkansas, to do my thesis, he got me interviews with the greatest people in football at the time. Now, they weren't necessarily in pro, because the greatest ones were Woody Hayes, were Bear Bryant, were Ara Parsegian. So those were the people that I talked to about really about selling in football, and wrote my thesis.
Man, appreciate that insight. Love the stories today. Thank you very much, good sir. Best of luck on Monday.
Guys.
and we'll catch you next week.
Let's go. Bye-bye.